This week, Siskel and Ebert review Michael J. Fox as a hustling showbiz agent in Life with Mikey. Rebecca De Mornay defends accused wife killer Don Johnson in Guilty as Sin. And Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about his new image for the 90s.
What? I don't believe this. You let her stay in your apartment?
You know, I don't understand you. I really don't. I thought you'd be happy. We finally get the biggest job we've had in years, and you're upset because there's a few little problems.
Michael J. Fox plays a former TV child star, now turned agent for kid actors in Life with Mikey. One of 4 big new summer movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, along with a new biography about blues rockers Ike and Tina Turner, the latest thriller with Rebecca De Mornay and Don Johnson, and also a conversation from the Cannes Film Festival with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He does get around. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first film is Life with Mikey, starring Michael J. Fox, who was once a child star and now works as a talent agent specializing in child stars. One day his pocket is picked by a 10-year-old girl on the street, and after he catches up with her, he's fascinated by her gift of gab. Convinced she has a future in show business, Fox brings her back to the office to meet his brother and partner, played by Nathan Lane.
She's dying to act, and my gut instincts tell me she's got what it takes.
Why isn't she in school?
I'm off for Christmas.
Well, Christmas is 3 weeks away, honey.
I'm very religious. You got a problem with that?
That's Christina Vidal as the unimpressed and very self-possessed future star there. There's a cute later scene in the film when she's taken to dinner by one of Fox's obnoxious little former clients who has left Fox's agency for a high-powered firm.
You listen to me. You think you're going to be 12 forever? You're not. You're going to get bigger and uglier and hairier. And in a few years when nobody will hire you, Spiro will jump you like a hot potato. But Michael and Ed will always be there for you.
And that's David Krumholtz, very good as the little creep there. Fox eventually becomes almost a father to his new discovery, identifying with her because of his own days as a child star. And when she gets a crush on a kid in her class, he tries to build up her confidence.
You're not ugly. Can you say that? Can you say, I'm not ugly?
Life with Mikey has some endearing moments, and I enjoyed all of the performance by Christina Vidal, a no-nonsense kid who is smart and can act and doesn't make the mistake of milking her role for pathos. But the movie doesn't tell much of a story. It seems to meander from one event to another, and it doesn't really have a third act at all. I sat there liking the young actress and wondering why Michael J. Fox seemed to be without a clue in a lot of his big scenes, and then I figured out it was because the screenplay never really develops any tension or interest for his character. There are the ingredients here for a fun comedy, but there is no payoff.
And that's, you're quite right, Roger, and that's because if you think about the Michael J. Fox character, the big problem for him is, will his little agency business go under, okay, with this little twerp kid leaving it, you know, possibly. And yet, if it succeeds, he's going to be unhappy because he hates being an agent for these kids. So he's in a lose-lose position as far as our rooting interest is concerned, so that doesn't work at all.
You know, that could have been fixed so easily with 2 lines of dialogue in which he loves the agency. This agency has become his life, and he loves working with kids, but he's a bad businessman. And then it would have created all the tension you needed.
All right, here's another approach. They could have said, let's make it sharp edge rather than warm and fuzzy and cuddly, and show, you know, the real stage mothering and the real conniving. In other words, not do it as sort of a little storybook, sweetheart little fantasy. Either approach would have been better. Our next movie is a film version of a popular video game. It's called Super Mario Brothers, and it doesn't work at all. This movie isn't either high or low tech enough. It's not as dazzling or as involving as the cutting-edge video games that would like to mirror, and it doesn't have the traditional movie elements like compelling characters or a fresh story. I also can't figure out exactly what age group this movie was made for. I guess I didn't like it. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo play the Mario brothers, 2 Brooklyn plumbers who fall into an alternative universe where they try to rescue an abducted college student named Daisy, played by Samantha Mathis.
Security alert. Stand by for special bulletin.
Mario, look! You look terrible! You don't look so good yourself.
The bad guy in this film is a lizard king, played by Dennis Hopper, the movie villain du jour these days.
It's melting. We're merging.
Some of the minor characters are cute. I like the Goombas, Hopper's helpers with pinheads and big overcoats.
Cops! Goombas! Daisy! The Rock!
And right there you see the problem. This movie can't decide whether it wants to be a flesh and blood film or a real video game. That kind of chase is boring compared with the urgency of a real video game where you're under constant pressure of time and your quarters running out. It takes a lot more imagination than what's been attempted with Super Mario Brothers to make a high-tech movie transfer.
Yeah, this movie wasn't imagined correctly at the outset. They didn't start out with a vision of what it was going to be even before they did everything else. And so you look at the movie and you see millions of dollars on the screen of special effects and all of those customized cars and that other world that they've created and everything else, and it doesn't add up to anything. It's just a lot of people running around, all talking at once in a plot that nobody cares anything about, and just every once in a while a little moment that kind of sparkles. Dennis Hopper is kind of good in a couple of his speeches, but it's a complete waste of time and money.
It is, and I think, you know, the timing would have been right with this explosion in infotech or whatever you want to call it, that the computers and all that. Kids are very sophisticated now, and if you could mirror that in some way, you could be a big bonanza. This film doesn't even try.
What this movie shows is that it's a lot harder to make a high-tech movie like this than you would think. And when we see ones maybe that we still have problems with, like Batman Returns, it's so much better than this that you admire it more when you see something like this.
Good point. When we come back, Rebecca De Mornay defends Don Johnson, an accused wife killer who seems to be guilty as sin.
So you stand to inherit a great deal of money?
Yes. And I've earned every penny. I've lived off of women all my life. That's all I'm good at. It's my talent, getting women to do what I want them to do.
And that's Don Johnson confessing there that he's a womanizing fortune hunter, and that makes his case intriguing to defense attorney Rebecca De Mornay in the new psycho thriller Guilty as Sin. He is accused of throwing his rich wife out of the window of their high-rise apartment, but he seems to have a good alibi, and so De Mornay takes the case. But then Johnson begins to turn weird, and she realizes he has a fixation on her. Watch Johnson in this scene where he starts out cool and then disintegrates in the face of rejection. He cannot deal with the thought that any woman can resist him.
You're an impossible person. I don't have to put up with it, and I won't.
No, I'm the one that has to do this. I'm the one that has to stand trial. I have to defend myself and my whole lifestyle. I have to apologize for being me.
As the case progresses, De Mornay develops an odd relationship with her client. She hates him and fears him, but is almost hypnotically fascinated by his snake-like evil.
Lawyer tries to frame her own client. Film at 11. Honey, you would be finished forever.
Why don't you just do it?
Because we've been close, haven't we, Jennifer?
If this were an ordinary formula thriller, at some point De Mornay would probably make the mistake of sleeping with Johnson, and Guilty as Sin would turn into another retread of all of those movies where you can't trust your lover. But she never really trusts this guy, and the ingenious screenplay traps them together deeper and deeper in a net of guilt and deception. This is a movie where both characters are perfectly aware most of the time of what the other one is doing, but the rules of the courtroom lock them together in a deadly silence. I thought it worked.
Gee, I didn't think it worked at all, Roger, and I would fault it on the casting level. You know, the old phrase that...
That's the very thing they did right, Gene, so I don't know why you would fault it on that level, because Don Johnson is perfect here as this slimy guy, and De Mornay has the intelligence to really go up against him.
And as I was saying before you
before I had my opinion, yes.
Before you continued to review, I think they're cast wrong, and in this way. I think Don Johnson basically is too nice to play a creep. I really do think that. I think he has a sweetness about him.
In this movie?
I think he is an actor.
He is loathsome in this movie.
No, I'm saying as I look at him on the screen, I don't believe him as a villain because I think he's too nice and sweet. And Rebecca De Mornay, I think, is not credible from the first moment we see her in the courtroom. For some reason, somebody either directed her or she chose to really swagger around in a typical sexy fashion as she's done so well in Risky Business, or even malevolently in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. And here, I just didn't believe her as a lawyer for a second. As she walks around, they're swinging her butt.
Well, I think if people listen to you, they're going to miss a really interesting movie. And one of the things that you should have mentioned but didn't is, weren't you concerned by the fact that he apparently did have an airtight alibi? How did you account for that woman who comes in? Remember, she's the wife of the Chicago Bears lineman, and she gives him an excuse for the whole afternoon? That seemed to me like a loophole that you might have picked up on.
My problem was that I wasn't buying the movie on the story level because I was laughing at the scene that you showed. Yeah. With him going off. It really
took some nerve for him to do that scene, because he is so hateful in that scene, and so unlikable.
No,
in that
I
scene.
think that he's an attempt to do what Dennis Hopper does far better, and that is play a villain. I thought it was laughable.
I think you missed the boat on that one. Coming up next, What's Love Got to Do with It? The big new biography of blues rock star Tina Turner and her creative but violent husband, Ike.
We got the right song at the right place at the right time. Now, I need you to get out on that stage right now.
As you can see from that number, our next film is something quite special. It's called What's Love Got to Do with It? A musical biography of blues rockers Ike and Tina Turner, the Mr. and Mrs. of Soul. And this is one terrific movie, explosive both musically and emotionally. A beautifully made period film with a couple of towering Oscar nomination caliber performances. In addition to all the great music, it's also the drama of a woman growing up and saying no more to being abused. Early on in the film, we meet Tina Turner as Anna Mae Bullock, a teenager with a big voice in St. Louis in 1959, as she gets on stage and sings with a local blues band led by Slick Ike Turner.
If you don't tell me you love me, I'm gonna pack my bags and go.
That's Angela Bassett as Anna Mae and Lawrence Fishburne as Ike. He not only puts her in the band, he also marries her and changes her name to Tina. And together, with the backup singers known as the Ikeettes, they begin producing hits like Fool in Love.
Tell me how come you're just a fool. You know you're in love. Tell me how come you've got the places to live in this world. How come you take the love along with the bad? Tell me how come. Sometimes you're happy and sometimes you're sad. One more time. You know you love it. You can't understand why he treats you like you do when he's such a good man.
Despite being at the top of the charts, Ike and Tina's private life was often a disaster. According to the film, he was addicted to cocaine and routinely beat her. The film doesn't flinch in depicting any of this.
No, leave her alone, Ike.
Sonny! Sonny! Huh? Come on! Come on! Get up! Go! Come on! Get up! Not one!
I'm out of here. You ain't got to hit me but once.
Eventually, Tina Turner says enough and sues Ike for divorce. She asks for a most unusual settlement.
My client would like to make an oral motion amending her petition for divorce, revoking any financial claims.
I want you to be very sure about this. It means you're going to walk out of here with absolutely nothing.
Except my name. I'll give up all that other stuff, but only if I get to keep my name. I worked too hard for it.
Larry Fishburne and Angela Bassett, they both appeared in Boys in the Hood together, and they're truly marvelous in What's Love Got to Do with It. Here are two young performers who obviously were ready to play when they got the biggest challenge of their acting careers. In fact, when you see the real Tina Turner late in this film, you kind of miss Angela Bassett. I also want to congratulate the film's director, Brian Gibson, and screenwriter Kate Lanier. They have made a gutsy, good-looking, great-sounding movie with a lot of raw edges, which is exactly what distinguishes both the music and the lives of Ike and Tina Turner.
I couldn't agree with you more, Gene. This is a powerful film, and it is powerful on both levels. It is powerful on the personal level and on the musical level, and Angela Bassett does a terrific job here of embodying the amazing energy of Tina Turner so that you don't see a pale reflection. You see someone who you can believe as Tina Turner.
Also, the evolution of Tina Turner. Not only do we see the
gawky little girl to an accomplished performer, and a woman who finally has the nerve in that fabulous scene, the scene where she walks into the motel after Ike has beaten her up, and she says, "My name is Tina Turner. My husband and I just had an argument. I have 36 cents to my name. Will you give me a room?" That scene
Well,
Just
that's
really.
There are lots of great. The way she stands him down when he pulls a gun on her.
Yeah.
That's another. And because it's quietly done. There are wonderful things here.
This is acting of a caliber that we don't often see in the movies.
Well, the other thing I want to stress about keeping the raw edges in. I am sure that there were thoughts, maybe. I hope there weren't, but there were thoughts to make this a more warm-hearted entertainment and maybe take some of the... I mean, there's a rape scene in this film that is one of the most shocking I have ever seen, and done with restraint visually, but done with something very imaginative. Boy, this is good filmmaking.
You're right. When we come back, Arnold Schwarzenegger was all over the place at this year's Cannes Film Festival, and I got one of only 72 TV interviews and 54 print interviews plugging his new thriller. What an exclusive. Box office star in the world, but maybe the top promotion expert, too. His new multi-million-dollar thriller, Last Action Hero, was still being edited last month as he arrived at the Cannes Film Festival, but he showed the coming attractions to the assembled press and then embarked on a non-stop series of interviews about the movie. This is one of the brief scenes the press scrutinized before talking to Arnold. Schwarzenegger, whose violent R-rated Terminator 2 was a giant hit, said his new movie would qualify for the PG-13 rating and present a kinder, gentler Arnold in a movie aimed at a broader family audience.
We always intended to shoot the movie for a PG audience. It was always from the beginning on a fantasy movie of epic proportions, a movie that does not dwell on violence, much more on action and on adventure.
In popular films like The Terminator,
I'll be back.
And Total Recall,
If I'm not me, who the hell am I?
Schwarzenegger has killed an estimated 275 people on the screen. But that was the Arnold of the 80s. Now here's the Arnold of the 90s.
I think that the 80s were quite different than the 90s will be. I think that in the 80s, we made much more, in general, much more hardcore movies. I think The Terminator, for instance, was a true representation of the 80s and for what kind of movies the people wanted to see. I think the 90s are different. I think in the 90s, we want to see a kinder and gentler type of an action hero. We want to see an action hero that shows more vulnerabilities, that is more multidimensional, that shows kind of love and affection, all kinds of other elements, but at the same time be tough and try to wipe out evil and to do all the big stunts and all those other kind of things. But I think that in Last Action Hero, we redefine the action hero of the 80s.
Last Action Hero is a movie within a movie about a kid from the audience, Schwarzenegger's biggest fan, who discovers himself somehow inside the same reality as his movie hero.
Holy cow! I'm in the movie!
Who the hell are you?
Don't shoot me! I'm Danny Madigan, I'm a kid!
Hi, is that guy?
The boys?
The cone of phrase.
The bad puns? The hard rock? This is really happening!
One reason Schwarzenegger is emphasizing the PG-13 rating may be recent studies allegedly showing that on the average, family films outgross R-rated films at the box office. There are some questions about those statistics, but never mind, nobody has outgrossed Arnold, no matter what the rating was. Although at the dawn of his career, he seemed like an unlikely candidate for movie stardom, he has been consistently brilliant at finding the right roles and the right stories for himself, and now the $70 million budget of Last Action Hero is his bet that the tide is turning toward lower key action. It'll be interesting to see if he's right.
So we're getting Arnold light, if you will.
Yeah, right.
No line with stripping the fat out of foods and all this sort of thing. I do feel the same mood in the country. When I was watching the latest Sharon Stone picture, I thought, you know, this is just too negative and downbeat. I think he may actually be onto something.
It's interesting because I had lunch along with a dozen other movie critics with Jeff Katzenberg, the head of the Disney Studios at Cannes, and he said Disney has already anticipated that this trend has come and gone and is aiming for the movies that will come after it. So that's the way. They're always living 18 months in the future out there.
I guess they've got to. Coming up next, our video pick of the week, a much better video game than the movie Super Mario Brothers. Weekly video recommendation, and rather than taking your kids to see Super Mario Brothers, which neither one of us like, tell them you want to rent a better video game movie. It's from 1982. It's called TRON, with Jeff Bridges playing a computer nut who is sucked into a machine where he becomes part of a video game competition. TRON is our video pick of the week. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs down on Life with Mikey, the Michael J. Fox kid comedy. We both thought the comedy was lame and that Michael J. Fox's character had nowhere to go, but Roger was charmed by newcomer Christina Vidal. 2 thumbs down for Super Mario Brothers, a lame video game film that has none of the pacing or involvement of a real video game. A split verdict on Guilty as Sin. I thought the thriller with killer Don Johnson being defended reluctantly by lawyer Rebecca De Mornay was completely laughable and badly cast, but Roger believed in the characters and liked the screenplay. 2 thumbs up, way up, however, for What's Love Got to Do with It, the powerful biography of Ike and Tina Turner, featuring magnificent performances by Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne. They'll be remembered at Oscar time, and I hope the film will too.
Well, I hope they will, although, of course, as an early summer picture, it tests that Oscar attention span problem, and so I hope they remember it when the time comes around. That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with a special show entitled Our Favorite Movies for Kids, KidVid. Gene and I both pick overlooked movies we think younger viewers would really enjoy, including the special effects masterpiece that inspired Aladdin. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Armatron All-Sport, beautifully designed, water-resistant with alarm, chronograph, and dual time, perfect for Father's Day. Armatron, the best price quality watch in America. For hair color that thinks it's a conditioner, ask your professional stylist for Shades EQ Color Gloss from Redken, the power behind beautiful hair. Berkline's wall-away recliner with innovative hideaway side, handy tray opens for snacks and magazine storage, looks and feels like a chaise lounger from Berkline. St. Ives Swiss Formula Apricot Scrub. St. Ives Swiss Formula polishes your complexion beautifully, naturally. St. Ives Swiss Formula Apricot Scrub.